All right, let's talk to Madi in New York.
All right.
Madi has frustrations with the use of community with online and social media platforms. Madi, you're live with Eric and V.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, folks. Hesitated giving in a call and stuff, but I appreciate being able to chat with you all a bit about this today.
Absolutely.
I actually happened upon your show just this last week by seeing V, I think, and Drew. Your conversation about the YouTube algorithm showed me that video, and then I started following up on all of that, and I ended up binge watching Midnight Mass, and whew, what a show!
So good.
And
welcome to our little slice of the internet.
Talking about that.
Yeah.
But I think something I've been kind of wrestling with, as the description there said, that I wanted to focus my just to open up the conversation with folks like yourselves that are, you're starting to build a platform, and and people colloquially have started using the term community for, the people that would be down in the chat, or otherwise parasocial connection with you.
Oh yeah.
And I'm in a place in my own therapeutic journey where I'm realizing that, I guess I would self-own that I'm of the Oregon Trail generation, right on the cusp of Millennial and Generation X. I actually just turned 40 last year, which is just really weird to kind of say. And I'm finding myself bereft of intimate connections and friendships, intimate meaning close friends that if I were sick would be down to come bring me, a can of soup or something if I reached out to them, or, my partner that I currently live with, they fell and shattered their elbow 2 years ago, and I ended up being their caregiver for most of that year. And that's a way that we kind of grew closer and stuff, but they didn't really have anyone else to reach out to. And I was just curious to see if there's any sort of cognitive dissonance that might be happening around the use of community.
I love this topic, Madi. Thank you for calling in with it. I feel like Eric and I have probably different opinions on this as well, and I think that we're going to probably dive into that a little bit more.
Yeah, just know, Madi, you started this.
No, I think it's on the one hand, I think that there is a big danger in calling your viewers or people that you interact with in a parasocial way community, friends, your network, your it's dangerous.
Family.
Right. Family. Oh my goodness. No, please. I love y'all, but we are not family, right? We're not friends in that way. And to assume that we are is to open ourselves up on either end to potential abuse of power, right? Those power dynamics are real, even with somebody with a small number of subscribers or somebody with more followers on Twitter or what have you. So there's definitely room for caution there, 100%. On the other hand, and I know that Eric will have many things to say about this as well, I do find that there is a kind of a knee-jerk reaction to press against that term when it is used in certain situations, because someone might not feel like a part of that community, right? And so if I were to say part of the atheist community, and someone who has not been involved in any kind of more insular group of atheists hears that and thinks, well, community, I'm not part of a community. Right, there is no community. Or maybe there's triggers happening with that word. I know that when I went to a Christian college, community was a big word that they used all the time to mean church while being cool, right? And so I
Yeah.
think there are a
Yeah.
whole bunch of reasons that people pull away from that word, when in certain situations, it does make sense to use. If you are all if you are all in it together for a reason, it doesn't have to be the same reason, doesn't have to be the same end goal, but if everybody in a space is brought together for a shared worldview or mindset or goal or
Hobby.
identity or
Purpose.
hobby, right? Purpose. That's a great, perfect. Yes, purpose. That's much more concise. Then yes, in some situations, that is calling yourselves a community gives you a sense of belonging, which a lot of people online don't have. And it also gives you a sense of power, right? Because the more people are in a community, the more influential that community can be externally. It's one of the reasons why during the gay rights movement, they decided we're not just going to be the gay rights movement, we're going to join with the lesbian rights movement, and we're going to be all inclusive to build a larger community that had lobbying power, that had voting power, right? And they might not all be in it for the same reason or know the same people or find friends in that community even. But there are benefits
But there
to
was
using the word.
solidarity and connectedness
I love that word, solidarity,
between all the
yes.
members.
So that's my 2 cents on that subject.
Maddie, before I jump in, I want to give you the opportunity to respond to V.
What are your thoughts there?
I mean, I think I'm also like connecting it with my own like frustrations. More so, I think the dissonance of the use of the word love and all the different contexts that we use the word love, you know, from familial or like friendships, the poly community, you know, polyamory or non-monogamous community wants to open up and use it in different ways, or with intimate partners and stuff, or even, you know, again, parasocial relationships, influencers saying, well, I love all of you all.
Right.
You know, the English sometimes does run out of utility with some of these concepts. And I think maybe listening to you kind of unpack that and point out some of the ways the community is used in other contexts to build like solidarity and belonging. You know, I think I'll walk away with this conversation able to kind of like, okay, well, let me parse where community is used, look at the context that it's in, and adjust my relationship or my reactions to seeing that word.
I love that. That is a beautiful takeaway, and I'm happy that that's kind of helpful, because the context is everything, and you are absolutely right. English is a very poor language when it comes to synonyms and different words for different things. We kind of lump a bunch of stuff.
Relationships, interpersonal relationships. I think the English had a problem with that.
Wasn't priority number one for sure.
And stuff, right?
Yeah. Eric, what are your thoughts?
Well, I would just supplement a little bit.
Yeah.
So I love, Maddie, the way that you described that, you know, making sure that you are limiting what you are receiving from that community. You know, the kind of support, make sure that it matches what that community is. For example, I recently started playing Dead by Daylight because I wanted to play with a friend. And I found a Discord and a group that was really fun, yada, yada, yada. Anytime I want to vent about something that happened in that video game, I go there because I know that there are people who are empathetic, who know what I'm talking about, and who care. And that's great. If they told me how to vote, that would be no. That'd be a big no. You know, if they had advice about, you know, a new cleanse that I should try, no, I'm not going to do that because I'm limiting it to that. There is something unique.
Boundaries.
Exactly. And there is something unique about boundaries that we establish with the communities that are built around shows and personalities. When you develop these parasocial relationships, I've had a number of new creators who I've talked to and tried to help a bit along the way behind the scenes to give them advice. And one conversation that I hate having, but know needs to be had, is eventually a creator will call me and say, hey, Eric, I'm having trouble with the fact that, you know, there are people who are fans who want to get together and have these great conversations, but they're relying on me to be the mediator between their arguments.
Right.
there's now conflict and they're needing me to step in. And I don't know, I'm spending more time trying to manage my fans who are disagreeing with each other than make content. And I have to tell them something I absolutely hate telling them, but I tell them they get to have a community. You don't. You don't get to be a part of the community that's being built in a parasocial way around you.
Yeah.
What you provide for them means something different to them. But when you speak up, there is a power imbalance. You speak with an authority that no one else in that group has. And because of that, you need to recognize and limit the interaction to what you want that to be. But you don't get to pretend like someone who's been a fan for 10 years doesn't view you differently. It's unfortunate. It hurts. But at the same time, I had to learn the hard way that when I've tried to get involved in community that was built around things that I was doing, it did more harm than good. It was not okay. And I absolutely hate it. But yeah, if you create a platform and that platform grows enough, there's going to be a community. The best you can do is enable and push, and create those spaces. We created, Facebook and Discord and things like that. We interact in a limited way, but we can't let ourselves be a part of that so much that, because then weird things happen. Weird, terrible things happen. If I reach out to somebody who offers to help and, they're a fan of the show, and they say, oh, well, I'm great in this is my profession. You need help? I'd be happy to help you. Well, guess what? You're getting free labor, and that person is going to feel like they need to now work for you for free.
Yeah.
And I have seen a lot of creators that are no longer creators anymore that have developed communities that resented them because they're like, I put in 200 unpaid hours for this person and they never, did anything, or I did all of this.
Reciprocity or other,
And there's no way that we can reciprocate with tens of thousands of people who want to, do things like that. And it sucks. It hurts. I wish that we could, but we can't. And so we need to draw those lines. And so we can talk about the Dead by Daylight community. We can talk about the local community that's able to bring you, soup when you're feeling bad. We can talk about all of those different places, right? I got really into Magic the Gathering. There was a Magic the Gathering community that I was a part of, damn it. But specifically when it comes
Been there, done that.
Oh, yeah? Oh, the money sink is awful. But that is another topic. That is a rant that I will go on for hours. I have boxes. Anyway, sorry. Specifically when it comes to shows, when it comes to these kinds.
My cousin owns a comic shop if you need to have a place to unload them.
Okay. You were going to sound like a dealer for a second. I was going to be like, get thee behind me, Satan.
Nice.
But when it specifically comes to shows and when it specifically comes to the way that we can interact with the communities that are built around us, we need to recognize and be very, very careful with the way that we interact because we want to encourage like-minded people to build relationships with each other. The sad thing is
there's a responsibility of intentional.
You absolutely got it.
Yeah.
You need to recognize and be responsible. And the responsible thing often is to let go. It doesn't mean that, you don't grow it, but what it means is you cannot interact in the same way everyone else can. It means you can't date in that pool.
Right.
That means that you can't depend on best friends in that pool. That means that when it comes, don't borrow money from that pool. That
free labor is always.
Yeah. It's not, and it is a tough road to walk, but it's one that you need to.
Yeah.
I think I've heard other content creators kind of mention or allude to ideas of where they had to kind of come into this place of realizing that they needed to set some boundaries as far as what kind of support they might be looking for in a certain space. I'm thinking specifically of Natalie Wynn of ContraPoint. She's discussed before throughout her early years of transition and stuff, being quite hurt by the broader trans community and having to find some ways to create a better balance there. And It's been insightful, but it also is like hard. I think like one thing to maybe ask you all before close out. I'm curious, like, how do you all then find support and like a more intimate, supportive community while you're also, you know, in the place of like shepherding this other parasocial community, if you will?
Yeah, that's a good question. We find it, I mean, I find it at work. We find it with other content creators that are around the same level of, you know, clout, I
or
suppose.
experience.
So we don't, obviously, there's going to be, you know, considerations there as well. But yeah, there are very many kinds of community, and you can build some and not participate in them. Others you can participate in, but you aren't part of the building. There are some very small communities, groups of friends, where you build and participate at the same time, and everybody has the same kind of, you know, power in that group. So it really does come down to, like you said, Maddie, parsing it and thinking about the context and thinking, what kind of community is being advocated for right now? What's being referenced? And am I comfortable in this community? Because that really is what it comes down to. We want to make sure that with this community, we've just built the room. We're not hanging out in the room being like, hey guys, isn't this a great room? Come be in the room with us. It's, hey, we're building a room and we want to make it beautiful and we want to make it safe and we want to make it a place that people want to go and hang out with each other. And that's our role in this particular community.
It's the limit of what we can responsibly do, unfortunately.
Yeah. We do have to wrap up. We are running over.
Actually,
we're going to have to run,
so
Maddie, but
yeah.
please do call back if you want to continue or have other questions. You seem like an insightful person, and we'd love to talk to you again.
Definitely. Thank you, Maddie.
Thank you so much, V.
Bye.
Take care.
Y'all take care.
Whew. Yeah, that's a tough one. It hurts. It hurts in here. And there are so many people who've reached out, and I'm a graphic designer. I'd love to help. And we're just like, you know, we're on a slow path. It would be great to reach out, but you deserve to be paid for your work. And I know that you want to help, but how can I make sure that you're not being taken advantage of? And I still, you know, bounce with that when it comes to our volunteers. Our volunteers are screening calls. They are keeping our social media channels safe, including Discord and Facebook. And if it wasn't for them, those wouldn't be the safe, wonderful, growing places that they are. And we aren't making enough to pay them. And they're like, we're happy to be a part of this community. And I wish that we could give them more. For our volunteers, we love you guys. And we're so grateful for you. And I don't ever want to take advantage of that kindness.